Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. This is the second video that I'm going to talk about Calendar Interop. If you didn't watch the first one, I would really suggest that you pause and go back and watch it because that is the introduction for this video and for the coming videos as well. So in the previous video, I have talked about the introduction for Calendar Interop, what is it and what are the use cases for it, and I showed you the final setup or the final result after we go through the setup process that I'm going to walk through with you in this, starting from this video and in the coming videos. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you the prerequisites and the requirements that you will need in order to set up Calendar Interop, whether on G Suite side or on Office 365 side. Now for this, as mentioned, I'm going to be using Office 365, but this is not really limited to Office 365. It is available for all of the modern versions of Exchange Server, if I can say this. And also it's available for Lotus Notes or for Lotus Domino. So for ease of implementation and for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show against Office 365. And basically, if you do it against Office 365, it is almost the same result or the same way to set up the environment for other Exchange Server versions. At the end, the Office 365 is actually using Exchange Online, which is a version of Exchange Server. So whatever we do on Exchange Online in Office 365, it's going to apply on Exchange Server on-prem, but anything or not necessarily that whatever you do on Exchange Server on-prem will be applied on the Exchange Online version. There are few limitations on the Exchange Online because of the subscription-based nature of Office 365 and of course the available features according to your license and to your subscription. So anyways, this is a completely different talk. Apologies for going to this. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the prerequisites that are going to be our base and are going to be our reference actually for this whole setup and this whole scenario. Now to get started on this, from G Suite side, you will need to set up or you will need to configure the calendar service. If you go to apps, then if you go to G Suite and then you go to calendar, and in the calendar at the bottom of the settings, depending on when you're seeing the video, because every once in a while they change the interface, but this is the current interface as of the date of this recording, and at the bottom you will see the Calendar Interop management. So you go inside and you will see that you have to set up few fields, or you have to fill few fields in here. The type of the service, which is Exchange Web Services, and if you check this, you will see the other connector for HCL nodes. Actually, it was by IBM, but now it was acquired by HCL. So you will get the ability or the option to do the connector for HCL nodes as well, or the Exchange Web Services. As mentioned, I will be doing for Exchange Web Services, which means Exchange Online. So you'll fill the URL here. You will also type username and password if you're using the basic authentication. Otherwise, you can use the OAuth 2.0, and this is specific for Office 365. And this is what I'm going to be showing you actually for the authentication. I'm not going to show you the basic method because on October, I believe, 2020, this is going to be removed and you'll only be having the option to use the OAuth 2.0. So I'll be showing you this, and there is a set of instructions that are available for this on G Suite help site, which is actually very easy and very straightforward to follow. And also at the bottom you will see the preferences and the options for the scenario that you're going to implement. So you need to decide and choose what do you want to do with the Calendar Interop, whether you want to show only the event details, or if you want to allow users to book the rooms and resources on Office 365 as well. So I'm going to be showing you both options as well, and I will start with the show event details and then I will go to room booking. And to support all of these prerequisites and requirements, there is actually an article called Get Started with Calendar Interop. This is the official article that I'm going to be using, and you're going to be using as well if you want to work with Calendar Interop and if you want to set it up for your organization. This is a very nice and a very organized article. It will give you the steps and the information that you need on points and steps. So you should get started from the first point and end and complete by point number 7 if you want to enable the full functionality and the full features of Calendar Interop. So I'm going to be following this article, but basically these are stuff that you need to check, and I'm not going through all of these actually. I'm just going to go through the option or the step number 4, and then step number 5 and step number 6, or actually step number 7. So these are the steps that I'm going to follow, and all of the actions and all of the stuff and all of the configurations that you need to do are actually found in these 3 steps. So step number 4, 5, and 7. If you're looking to do it with Exchange Server 2010, then you'll have to do step number 3. Otherwise, you just don't need to worry about that at all. And hopefully no one is still using Exchange 2010. That's 10 years old by now. And actually more than 10 years. So yeah, hopefully nobody is using Exchange 2010. That's too old by now. So this is the article that we're going to be using on Exchange or for G Suite side, and that's actually going to give us the instructions for both Office 365 and G Suite. Now for other requirements and other prerequisites, you will also need to connect to the Exchange Online PowerShell, and that is actually done through this article, Connect to Exchange Online PowerShell with Basic Authentication. Now again, I'm showing you this while it is mentioning Basic Authentication, and while I already mentioned that Basic Authentication will be removed and it's going to be disabled, as you see in this notice here. But again, for the sake of quick demonstration and just to make things simpler, I'm going with this method. However, by the time you're watching this video, if you're watching around October or maybe after October or maybe even before that, you might notice some changes to this article or to the way that Exchange Online PowerShell works and allows you to connect to the interface of that. But again, just for sake of simplicity and ease of work and all of that, I will just use this method for now. So what you need to do here is you'll have to scroll down to the middle of the page and you'll find the instructions. So first of all, you have to set the execution policy to remote signed. This is to allow you to run the Exchange Online scripts on your machine. And then you need to get the credentials for the environment or for the Office 365 tenant or the Exchange Online PowerShell login. And this is where it's going to ask you to type in the credentials, and then it's going to import the session, including the commandlets and all of the stuff that are for Exchange Online. And finally, you're going to load the session into PowerShell. This is a very easy to follow and just 3 steps for you to use and to implement in order to connect to Exchange Online PowerShell interface, which is actually I'm going to do and I'm going to use for this. So these are the prerequisites, and as mentioned as well, I did clean up the setup here. So you see there are no rooms, and if you go to active users, you should see only the demonstration users or the demo users that I have on this account, this demo account on Office 365. So this is my environment. It's now cleaned up and nothing is there. I will be creating the role account with you, and I will be creating the additional lookup accounts with you, and we're going to set up this whole thing together. So as a starting point, let me actually connect to the Exchange Online PowerShell, and let me open PowerShell here. So this is the PowerShell, and again I'll have to reference and go back to that article, and this is, let me just confirm that the policy is set to remote signed. I think I need to open this as administrator. So, okay, there it is. So I have opened the PowerShell as administrator, and now I can run the commands. So set remote policy or execution policy to remote signed, and it's done. Then I've got to connect to the PowerShell interface, which is done through this command. So I will load the credentials. And once they are loaded, I will be back again with you. So I have loaded the credentials. Hopefully I did type the username correctly. Otherwise I will be in a little bit trouble. So this is the next command, which is going to import the session, and it's going to validate the credentials if they are correct or not. So I'm just going to paste here and click enter. Hopefully I did type the credentials correctly. And the session is loaded. Then the final command, which is actually going to import the session into my PowerShell session or whatever. So this is the final command and the session is being imported. Now, just to make sure that I am connected and everything is going well for me, I will just type one command, which is get mailbox, to make sure that I can use Exchange Online commandlets. So these are the mailboxes that I have and everything is going well for me. Let me just resize this. So the next step now is I have to create the role account, and I really recommend that you get started with this article and again start from the first point, but for my side, just for ease of demonstration and again saving time, I'll just go to step number 4. And in step number 4, I will go to learn more, which is going to take you to the related article for this. And in here, it's going to show you the instructions that you need to follow and you need to watch out for. So there are a few stuff that you need to check in this step as well. So if you go to step 1, it's going to tell you that you need to confirm users are meeting one of these two conditions. Either the user should not be a G Suite account, or the user should have a G Suite account without calendar service enabled. It means that the user should have everything enabled on his G Suite account except the Google Calendar. And also you should enable the turn on full event details lookup. This is going to expose the calendar details for your G Suite users if you're looking to allow your G Suite users to see and work with the calendars and the availability of your Office 365 users. So you have two ways to do this. You can either do it for a mailbox, or you can do it for all of the mailboxes. So let me do it for all of the mailboxes because I'm just having like 5 or 6 mailboxes there, so it's not a big deal for me. Just taking this whole thing, copy, and going back to PowerShell and pasting that, then pressing enter. This is going to do the whole thing for you. The nice thing about this guide and this article is they actually give you the commands, so you just copy and paste and you don't have to worry about anything else. It's very straightforward and easy to follow. Okay, that took a little while, but the command has been executed without any issues. I'm not sure if you already are aware about this, but when you execute a command with PowerShell, and if the command is successful, you don't get any feedback or anything. But when there is an error, you'll get a big red message that tells you there is something wrong and you have to worry about it. So this is good that we didn't get any feedback or anything here. Now, the second step is the turn on Exchange Internet connectivity. This is, of course, if you're not using Office 365. But if you're Office 365 customer, then you don't have to worry about this. Otherwise, you have to just take a look at these IP ranges and you have to make sure the Exchange server is able to communicate to those IP ranges on port 443. And I'm not sure if there are any other ports here, but that's actually the main important port there. Then step number 3 is you have to create the role account, and that's just a standard user where you have to create the role account there and then get its username and password. Now, keep in mind that the password that we're going to use for this role account we'll have to use again for the lookup accounts, the other 10 lookup accounts that we need to create in the coming video. So it's a good idea that you note that password somewhere, or at least you remember what password did you use. Please don't take that advice to note it somewhere because it's not a good advice at all. But just make sure you're using the same password because you will need to have the same password there. So let me just go back to the portal there and create the role account. So add a user. So this is the role account. And then going back to the article, we need to create the OAuth 2 token, which is done in the Microsoft Azure portal. So we'll have to go to the Azure portal and create an app for our G Suite. So we'll go to portal.azure.com. Let me copy this one and open it in a new tab. So I'm in my Azure portal. I don't want to take the tour, thank you. What I need to do here is I have to go to Azure Active Directory and then manage and then click app registration, and I will just need to register the new application. So it's just a way for Azure to know that what application needs to access the details, and just take or generate a token for it and then use that token in G Suite side. So I'll just have to go to the portal here and find the Active Directory, maybe just in the search to get it quickly. So Azure Active Directory. Then I will go to app registrations. So manage and then app registrations. And then I will make a new registration. So in here, I will just type a name for this application, which is going to be, let's say, G Suite Calendar Interop. I will leave the other stuff there, so I will just click register. And the registration is done. So what I need to do is I have to copy the application client ID, and just copy this and put it in a notepad. This is the client ID. Then I have to generate a new client secret, which is done in the certificates and secrets. So I have to find it here, which is on the left side, certificate and secrets. I have to create a new client secret, which is done on this section. So new client secret. So let me just add a description there, which is also called G Suite. And I'm going to set the expiry to never, so it does not expire and, causes the service to be disrupted when users are using that in production. Again, I'll click add and I will get the secret value there, which is something that I will need. So this is the secret value, and I'm going to put it here as well. So this is client ID and this is the secret value. Now at this point we have to grant permissions to the client ID or the the thing that we have just created now. So from here I will go to API permissions and I will add a permission for the exchange. So let me click add a permission here. Sorry for my mouse, it's glitching for a little bit. And I'll have to find exchange server and I'll check the application permissions, and then I'll have to select the full access as app. So this is the permission that we need, and then I'll click add permission. So the final step here is you have to grant it access to our Office 365 tenant or service. So the way to do that is we'll just click grant admin consent for the tenant, and we'll have to click yes on this message so it can update the existing stuff. And that's it. So now the permissions are granted, as you can see here. Now, just before we move into the G Suite admin console, we have to get the OAuth token endpoint, and the way to do that is we have to go back to the application where we have registered our application, and we have to get the endpoint from the interface here. So that is found in the endpoints. So you go to endpoints, you will need to take the OAuth token endpoint version 2. So you'll just copy this value here. And let me just put it back in the notepad. So this is the token, and these are the information that we'll need to take into our G Suite. So going back to G Suite now, I will just type the EWS URL here, and the Exchange Online EWS URL is actually default for all of the customers of Office 365, and that is https://outlook.office365.com/exchange.asmx. So hopefully I did type it correctly. Then the role account, which is the one that I have created previously, which I also forgot. So I'm going back to copy the email address, which is this one. So copying this, and we close this one, going back to the admin console and pasting this. Now going to the authentication part, this is where we have to use OAuth. Not sure why it's giving me this one, but anyways. So the token endpoint URL, we just copied this one. This is the one. Right click, copy, and then paste. The application client ID is this one. Again, taking this, copy and paste. The client secret is also something we have. So this is the client secret or secret value or whatever you want to call it. And for now, let's click Show Event Details and click Save. So we have enabled the interoperability settings with Exchange Online. Now, just don't worry about this stuff. It seems the page is bugged or something, but if I just refresh it, you will see that everything is fine here. So now the configuration are done on the G Suite side and Office 365, and technically my users should be able to see the status or the calendar status or event status for the Exchange Online users. So to do this, I have already disabled the calendar service for a user that I have in my admin console, and that user is testing user 01. So this is the mailbox of testing user 01, and if you check the applications that are available for him, you don't see Google Calendar there. And if I try to go to calendar.google.com, you will see an error message that this service is not enabled for this user. So by doing this, I am meeting the condition. Let me go back to this article. I'm meeting the first condition of the Exchange user requirements, which is if the user is having a G Suite account, then the calendar service must be turned off. So I did this and I'm fine with that. So if I go to my calendar as the administrator, let me just open the calendar here, or even as any other user, actually, it's not required to be the administrator. And if I try to make a meeting with testing user 01, just to give you a relevance or a reference on what I have done here, this is the calendar of testing user 01 on Office 365, as you see. And on the next day, I have set up an event on 8 a.m. until 8:30 a.m. So there is a 30 minutes event for this user on this day. So if I go back to the calendar there, and if I type tuser01, which is this one, and when I try to see the availability status for this, it's going to query that status and it's going to give me that this user is busy on this time of day. So right now I can successfully and easily view the calendar availability status for Office 365 users. Now, if you want to allow more functionality to happen between G Suite users and Office 365, then the next video I'm going to be talking about setting up the G Suite users to be able to book and use the Office 365 resources and rooms and even equipment that you have available and set up on Office 365. So apologies for taking this long time on this, but again, whatever we've done, it's actually a prerequisite for everything. So all of the stuff that we have done, creating the role account, doing the authentication and all of that, all of these are prerequisite for this scenario where you want users to see the availability status, or if you want users to see or use the rooms and resources that are available in Office 365. So if you like this video, if you find it useful, if it did help you overcome an issue with Calendar Interop setup and all of that, please feel free to post any comment, and also please like the video and subscribe, and also check out my course on Udemy that is covering the full aspects and activities of managing and administering G Suite and all of the tasks that you can have and you should do actually as a G Suite administrator. You can get it for a discounted price. So until the next video where I'm going to be completing this series, I hope this was informative for you and I'd like to thank you for viewing.